The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to a weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Elijah Herbel and Mark Kraynak joining you here to lead off the show, as Schmidt will be joining us here in just a moment. A big recruiting weekend for Nebraska. The sky lit up red in downtown Lincoln on a Friday evening. Mark, it's good to see you here on a Saturday morning. You're back from assignment out in California. And what were you cooking up last week? That's all I want to know. What were you doing out there that led to the week that we just had? Because I know you were involved somehow.
I was hiking, I was one with nature. I was playing catch on the beach. I was doing all kinds of great things. It was a lot of fun, but it's very private. I don't know if I want to get into it. You know what I was doing the week before that, though?
What were you doing?
Predicting exactly what we're going through right now on this exact show. I believe it was on this show. I'm not trying to take a victory lap around that. Not trying to toot my own horn, but right? There's a little bit of a horn tooting that. See, thank you, Rick. Exactly, man. He was here. He remembers it from a couple weeks ago. Everybody had counted out Raiola to Nebraska. Except me. I'm not trying to make it all about me, but except me. You were over there thinking, oh, no, it's Kaelin. Kaelin's the future, right? That's what you were thinking, Elijah. Meanwhile.
That's why the timing of you being on assignment last weekend is suspicious. It's a little suspicious of you being out on assignment. What were you doing?
I was just you notice how I was very nonspecific? There's some things I just can't tell you, right? There's some things I cannot. I'm trying to get this program right, all right? I'm trying to get this Nebraska program right, and if that means I got to go incognito for a weekend, to start bringing in the talent off the payroll. And that's what I'll do. I think it'll make this more interesting. In all seriousness, though, when it dropped the fact that Raiola was now back in business, I know it was a shock because of his stature and because his family had moved. But is it really that big of a shock? I didn't really predict it, if I'm to be honest. I didn't predict that it would happen, but I definitely, I wanted to make it clear that you should not rule this out, right? his dad is engraved on the damn stadium. His uncle's a coach on the damn staff, right? He's committed to Georgia, where they already have 11,000 five-star quarterbacks. It just was not out of the realm of possibility that he. By the way, he's watching Nebraska, and he's seeing how much they struggled at quarterback. Average quarterback play, Nebraska's 8-4 playing in a bowl. Just average, right? You don't even have to be Joe Montana. You don't have to be Tom Brady. You need to be like Zach Lee up in here. There he is. Chris Schmidt joins us now on the show that he started. Chris, welcome. Good to have you. Should we just interview Chris as a guest since he showed up late? Treat Chris as though he's a guest on his own show. That'd be kind of fun.
Chris Schmidt joins the show here on a Saturday morning. You know him from Hail Varsity Radio. Schmitty, we say hello.
Hey, love you all. Hey, good morning. I had to, make a run for the border, so I'm back. It's all good.
Well, it's good to have you. So you either had Taco Bell for breakfast, or you had Taco Bell last night. The problem.
I didn't. I'm on some meds because I've had kind of some sinus chest crap, and sometimes it disagrees with my stomach.
Oh, okay. Translation: Chris just took a dump. Okay, so we've got some good. We've got some good comments.
Walter. It was a harrowing moment, similar to Dumb and Dumber.
What's funny is right before he wrote that, he wrote, "Mark, spill your guts." I think he was talking to you, and I think you took it literally.
Hey, some news this morning.
Oh,
and saw this on Twitter last night. Maybe you've covered it already. Maybe you haven't.
What did I call it the fact that Raiola would flip?
Well, you
or you got some other news?
No, Danny Kaelin put out a tweet last night. Where it had a shot of him at the indoor facility playing catch with his two buds, McMorris and Davon Hall.
Okay, how is that breaking news? The fact that a quarterback was playing catch.
He tweeted it with the hashtag GBR.
GBR. And it had a red balloon.
So he's.
I also sent a text out, and he has canceled his visit to Michigan State this weekend.
That was on my mind after they picked up Childs in the portal. They got Childs from Oregon State, and immediately Daniel Kaelin to Michigan State started making less and less sense to me because Childs has, 3 years of eligibility left?
Yeah, I mean, he's a young quarterback that they recruited and love at Oregon State, and he followed Jonathan Smith to Michigan State. So Danny Kaelin will stick with Nebraska, is what I'm telling you.
So to reset for those playing at home, that's Danny Kaelin, the Bellevue West quarterback who has been in the class now for a year or so after Dylan Raiola had already announced that he was going to Georgia, not Nebraska, right? That opened the door for Kaelin. He takes it. Now Raiola's back in. Kaelin saying he's still in. And if you're Danny Kaelin, I mean, honestly, why not? Unless you're thinking as Danny Kaelin, I'm probably going to start as a true freshman in Power 5 football. If that's what he's truly thinking, then yeah, he probably should look elsewhere. But I don't think he's thinking that. I think he's thinking, I got to improve. I got to get a little bit. And he's good. He's had good Power 5 offers, but he does not strike me as the type of guy that walks right into a program and starts day one. I just don't think he's there yet. I think he's got more maturing to do. But then you look at somebody like Raiola. I mean, that is a little bit more like that's a dude that walks straight on campus.
Different situation, man.
Different situation. But so if you're Kaelin, you're just like, yeah, that's cool. But and injuries happen so often. Why wouldn't you? If Nebraska was your dream school anyways, and okay, now you got to compete against a 5-star. That's not the first time. That's happened. Ask Amir Abdullah about that, right? You got to compete against whoever. So that's good on him for keeping his commitment.
And to know, Mark said, do you think you feel as a true freshman that you can step in and start at Nebraska or Michigan State or whatever high-level Power 5 program you end up going off to? That is a rarity in college football. That's a rarity at Nebraska. That's a rarity at most places across the country that a true freshman can step in straight away and be the guy that is ready to go. So with that in mind, I don't want to discredit the talent of the kid because I do believe Daniel Kaelin's a very, very talented kid. I think there's some refining that needs to be done. I don't know, even if Michigan State had gotten Childs, whether or not he would be a guy from day one that was going to be ready to start. And I don't want to doubt the kid. You never know until a kid shows up on campus and starts going up against that true Power 5 Division I talent. You don't know what a kid's going to bring you. And I think Daniel Kaelin versus Raiola will be a competition as well. I believe that the staff is true in what they mean in that it's going to be a competition for starting jobs at Nebraska. That being said, I think Raiola is further along in his own personal development. Should Nebraska land Raiola than Daniel Kaelin? With all that in mind, I would like to note here, I am saying it now on December 16th at 8:05 a.m., that I believe Dylan Raiola and Daniel Kaelin as a combo is bigger for Nebraska than a Dylan Raiola and Kyle McCord. I'm going to throw that there now because of the long-term 5 years that would probably take care of your quarterback room. I think that is a bigger deal for Nebraska than a potential Kyle McCord transfer portal coup.
You have two freshmen versus your bridge guy and then your freshman. You've got one that is good enough to go win a starting job. He is further along tools-wise as a freshman, okay? And he's one of those few freshmen that can come in and do the job and is physically gifted. And then you've got Kaelin that is super talented. You've seen that throughout his high school career. That's going to take a little more seasoning, but at least you have him here, which is great. You can let him compete and then let him develop. And that's the name of the game. Mark, your title this morning for our friends is Mark called the Raiola flip. It's not traveling journalist. It's not weekend journalist. It's not Omaha-based journalist. It is Mark called the Raiola flip. That's what he has in his title. Brandon Vogel is. I don't
type that stuff in. I don't type that stuff in. That's what the producers give us. I'm just
okay. Let me meet the producers sometime. Brandon Vogel's with us from Counter Read, counterread.com, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. It's where you find him. And we have all sorts of recruiting and Raiola and volleyball things to talk with Vogues. Vogues, how are we doing this morning? Thanks for jumping on with us.
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me.
How about the week for you as you've observed Nebraska football, the twists, the turns, quarterback drama, the news this morning, or the feel that you're going to be able to keep Kaelin in the boat, the looming Nebraska fans hope announcement by Raiola, and you can go take Bevo down tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, for a team that's done playing football for 2023, there sure was a lot of football goings-ons this week, which is good. And if you told me that in September, Nebraska's not going to have a ton of guys enter the transfer portal, but a mid-December week is going to be one of the news heaviest weeks that there is. I would have thought something went very wrong. And I guess, there's still technically everything's still up in the air. You could say that the Kyle McCord courting maybe went wrong or whatever happened there. But to Elijah's point, I think Nebraska needs two quarterbacks in this quote unquote class. And whether that's a transfer plus a freshman, or if you're looking at two true freshmen, I think that's the minimum what Nebraska needs. And it looks like they're going to hit it. So I guess we'll just wait on official word, but things are looking okay.
Brandon Vogel is with us on the Hail Varsity Weekend Edition as we talk the flip for Dylan Raiola. It appears imminent. It's not official. It appears imminent. He's on his official visit this weekend. Now let's kind of put that into perspective. I was trying to explain it to somebody who is not an ardent Husker fan or follower. And I was just trying to explain how significant it is for the fan base to experience this and how significant of a recruiting win this is. And this is just what pops to mind. I just want to see where you're at with this. The closest comp I can think of is Tommy Frazier, 91, where as soon as that happened, the collective fan base kind of knew, even though we didn't follow recruiting that much, that one just hit way different. And it's like everybody just kind of knew, T.O. might have just gotten his guy. And
the legend of Tommy Frazier.
And it's just sort of all the other pieces are kind of there. There's some good pieces there. It felt significant. You knew how significant it was. I feel like this is in that same universe. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think so. I will cop to not following recruiting all that closely in 1991. Now, I've heard a lot of stories since then about that Tommy Frazier recruitment. And I mean, part of it with him was all of Nebraska's most immediate rivals. And this was a different era for Nebraska football, but Colorado's in the mix, Oklahoma's in the mix, sort of. You had Clemson, you had the Florida schools. It was a high profile recruiting battle. And, Nebraska at that stage was kind of going through its little late 80s, early 90s bowl swoon. But you still felt it was kind of that one kind of signature piece away. And Tommy Frazier kind of looked like that coming out of high school. So Raiola would be, depending on how in the weeds you want to get with projections and numbers and recruiting rankings. Nebraska doesn't sign players like this. That are as highly rated as he is. And yeah, there's a direct link to him that gets Nebraska in the door there, but you kind of can't argue with that piece of it. And you go back and look at the 5-star quarterbacks. There are only a couple of them each year. And yeah, there's a couple of flame outs every now and then, but for the most part, those guys end up being pretty good.
Vogues, you also had a number with 5-star and then true freshman starts. I think you pulled this up Thursday, reset that with just how difficult it is to come in and thrive. I mean, we very rarely do you go become day one guy. Tommy Frazier, Trevor Lawrence, your two recent and nostalgic examples of true freshmen that started and went on to win national championships. Not their freshman year, but they went 2 for 4, all right, on championships. And it took till game 6 for both of them to start. There's a chance that Raiola, once he flips, has a good shot of winning the job. What's the quarterback room look like now? Raiola, presumably. Danny Kaelin in. Not going to Michigan State this weekend. Chubba? I mean, are those your 3 guys?
Probably. I mean, it sounds a little bit overzealous and to say, like, based on recruiting rankings and high school film and all the stuff with Raiola, but I really think if he commits, he's Nebraska's best quarterback. Like, that's kind of what being a 5-star, that's kind of the expectation there, fair or not. And you never really know until you see how they come in and adjust to the college game. That said, Dylan's had a very unique kind of upbringing in the sport of football, just with all of the kind of access and advantages that his dad's NFL career was able to provide. So that should help him along. But to the point of, 5-star quarterbacks, even if Dylan is like what you would expect a 5-star quarterback to be right away, since 2018, so past 6 recruiting classes, there have been 25-star quarterbacks. 3 of them have started like early in their freshman year. Dante Moore at UCLA this year, kind of half in, half out. He was the starter, but Chip didn't want to make him the full-time starter, so it was weird. The NIL, like, there's rumors that got messed up with him, so he's in the transfer portal now. He was okay. He was a guy who had about as many interceptions as he did touchdowns, which is something you always worry about with freshmen, just making that adjustment. Then you've got some guys like Caleb Williams that kind of emerged mid-season, but really it's more. And then you got to go all the way back to 2018 when Trevor Lawrence and Clemson started Kelly Bryant at the start of that year, but it was playing both guys, and eventually, like, it was just apparent that Lawrence was the better quarterback. He's like the one where you can say, yep, 5-star, came in absolutely as good as advertised, still as good as advertised in the NFL. It's like the dream scenario. He had a top 10 QBR as a true freshman in the country. The other guy to start that year was JT Daniels, who eventually played at 4 different schools. So,
wow. Just 4?
Yeah, just 4, I think. Oh, but maybe was it only 3? Maybe only 3. USC, Georgia, Rice. No, 4.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yeah.
Jeez, played at 4 different schools. And as you look ahead to I'm not sure that well, in fact, I know. We can't sit here and say it's going to be Raiola's job to lose week 1, right? Like, it's just, that's not possible. However, it's also
one
of those
job to win. I mean, I look at it that way.
Good luck, right? It just the adjustment high school to college. I just think Purdy is in the driver's seat still, in my opinion. I think it lights a fire under him. Think of, if you're Purdy, real quick. If you're Purdy, how much your situation has changed just in the last 2 months, right? Before, you were the afterthought third stringer. It was Jeff Sims' job, in early September. That's where it was, and you were injured, and you're gonna, it just wasn't your thing. All of a sudden, you have ascended to being the starter, first of all, and now you're the starter with the guy Sims, who was ahead of you, out of the way. Heinrich, somewhat limited as a quarterback, kind of out of the way. Now you got a 5-star coming in. Now you're the front runner, though, right? You're still the front runner. And how is he going to act as that guy where he's got somebody nipping at his heels now? After getting a taste of some playing time last year, looking pretty comfortable, I'd be more than fine if Chubba was able to secure that job with Dylan coming in and playing some spot duty, learning on the job. I mean, isn't that the ideal scenario?
The thing, though, is to me, this situation reminds me. There's two I look back on in Husker history, both of them within the past 15 seasons, where you have a guy on the roster you know about, you have a new guy coming in that's got all the buzz. I think back to that Zach Lee, Cody Green, Taylor Martinez quarterback competition of 2010. Where Zach Lee, everyone saw what Zach Lee was in 2009. Well, he let him do a Big 12 title game. Like, he's got to be in the driver's seat, but everyone had heard so much about this young Taylor Martinez, how athletic he was, the plays he was making on scout team as a redshirt, his redshirt season. Comes in and wins the starting job that year, and I think a lot of people saw that one coming because of what you heard about him and who he was. And then you look to Taylor Martinez competing against a guy in Tristan Gebbia back at the beginning of Scott Frost's tenure. Where
Adrian Martinez.
Did I say Taylor?
Yeah, you did. You're one of them now.
It's a Martinez at Nebraska, who would have thought. But it's the same situation there where you know what you have. I think Husker fans did in Gebbia, which was a very, very talented quarterback that could throw the ball around the yard. But you didn't know what you had in Adrian Martinez, but you had heard the stories of how athletic he was and the plays he was making in practice. And what does he do? He comes in and wins the starting job, which I believe only other quarterback I can think of off the top of my head, true freshman starting quarterback at Nebraska starting from game one. That situation reminds me so much of this one, where you know what Chubba is. Chubba's a fine, he's a serviceable quarterback based on what we saw at the end of the year. But you look at Dylan Raiola and the talent that he brings in here, I think it would be a competition through fall camp. But I think we all know, assuming Dylan is what we think he is, who ends up winning that job. That's the best way I can put it based on what we saw with the Taylor Martinez situation, the Adrian Martinez situation. You know who's got the upside, you know who's got the talent, and I think within the back of your mind, you know who's probably going to end up winning that quarterback job.
Vogue's weigh in on this. Let's put you as the impromptu quarterback coach, because that's also likely on the horizon for Nebraska. Quarterback coach, 5-star, Danny Kaelin, signing day Wednesday. Boom. I think there's some things Chubba needs to work on, but man, I loved watching him play. I loved what he brought. I loved the dual part of what he brought. But when it comes to progressions in the Satterfield offense, that's what Nebraska was dealing with last year was limited quarterback ability from reading a defense. It was, all right, here's our first read, let's throw it to the guy that's open, versus some guys running open. And I don't think as much training as Dylan Raiola's had in his life with NFL dudes, great quarterback coaches. I mean, that's something he's more comfortable with. I think from a fit standpoint of reading defenses and scanning the field and, of course, having time to do all this with the offensive line, that's just it. There's the turnover factor. And, not all of them were on Chubba. He had a handful of turnovers, but that's the other part. Do we know how well Dylan Raiola, if and when he becomes Nebraska's quarterback, can take care of the football compared to what's here?
Yeah, that's always a big thing, especially with freshmen, or even, part of this with Nebraska, not the Sims, but Harburg, I think, is just a first-time starter. Like, sure, if you've been there and you've been practicing for a while, you can get a little bit used to the speed of the game, but it's still different going against a real Big Ten defense. So I think you always worry about that piece of it. If I'm fantasy Nebraska quarterbacks coach, I think I'm with Mark in that the ideal scenario is you don't need Dylan Raiola to be your day one starter. It's why, early in the week when it looked like Nebraska might thread the tiniest needle of all needles and get McCord and Raiola, it was set. It was like, okay, well, there's no pressure on Raiola to come in. If he's good enough, he's good enough. If he needs time, it's, everybody compared it to the Arch Manning thing. It's the Arch Manning thing. Can you do that with a Chubba Purdy? Potentially. It would be kind of similar to that 2018 Clemson season where it's like, Chuba's our starter, and if we get 5-6 games into this and it's obvious that Raiola's better, then Raiola's better. But it'd be nice not to have to pin all of that on him right away. It's part of why when he committed to Georgia initially, I was like, well, that makes sense. It's like an entirely different context from being a 5-star Raiola at Nebraska versus just being one of 6 5-stars at Georgia. So it's interesting on a lot of levels that way.
Okay, let's go a little bit deeper into the film with Raiola, and here's why I think he will not start early, but why I think he will later. When you look at how he deals with pressure, like pressure in his face, he deals with it like uncomfortably well. So like if you're watching him in the pocket, like dudes are all over him, it doesn't faze him at all. And so to me, what it says is that has been an emphasis probably from Dad of like, when you're back there, you got people blocking for you, you better not wuss out. Like you stand in there and you deliver the damn ball, right? Like I'm serious. That's what it looks like. Seriously. I mean, they're dudes they're hanging on his leg and he's still got his eyes upfield. So those are like positive traits. Don't get me wrong. Like that will serve him well. But the speed and ferocity with which that will happen to him in college will take a little bit to get used to. And I think he will be a turnover. He'll be a turnover risk until he adjusts to that. Because I mean, dude, he is hanging till the very last millisecond. And like he will take crushing hits. That is a good thing. But I think that stuff will be on him way too quick than what he's used to. Like, you know what I'm saying? After watching him, Brandon, when you watch him, if you're to like, and that's not criticism. It's really not. It's just an observation of how he rolls and then trying to prognosticate how that'll be once he gets into the college game. But as you watch his film, does that stand out to you? Do other things stand out? What is it? What are some of your takeaways with him?
Yeah, it does feel like, and this is kind of like the ultimate, I think, compliment you can potentially pay a quarterback. It looks like he had an offensive lineman for a dad, like, you know, not just the like stand in there, but I also get a sense of like, hey, look, like these offensive linemen. I mean, okay, this is happening at a way different level at college and NFL than it is at high school, even high level high school. But it's like, you know, be consistent with like if you're supposed to be 5 steps back, like be there because the offensive line, and it takes an offensive line to kind of, I think, offensive linemen to make you better be able to understand this as a 17-year-old. It's like, we'll move guys behind you, like, we'll move guys in front of you and just get them out of your way, but like be where you're supposed to be. So you do sense a polish there. That said, you know, looking towards Nebraska 2024, none of these offensive linemen have blocked for that type of quarterback, kind of a more of a pure passer. It's different. It really is. And I thought pass protection, I thought Nebraska took a step up front there, and this would have been the case with McCord too. You know, it's just, it's a different, there's subtle differences there that I think there would be an adjustment period. And with a true freshman, no matter how good he is, like if it takes a couple games and you're back there taking those hits, to your point, he's willing to, how long before it starts to wear on you? And I mean, you know, we talked about the 5 stars, like we only have to go back to 2018, as Elijah sort of mentioned, to the last time Nebraska started a true freshman quarterback. And, you know, it felt like Adrian was so good out of the gates in that Colorado game, and really all season long was strong for a true freshman, definitely. Was better than the average college quarterback that year. But you could see like the wear and tear kind of, I think, accumulates a little bit earlier the younger a player is. And that's probably true across all positions.
Vogues, want to get your take on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
As it's Nebraska, it's Texas. You don't get Wisconsin in the rubber match. That's fine, but you do get Texas. Size this up for me, man. What's your feel going in?
I think not having to deal with the baggage and familiarity of the Wisconsin thing is probably a slight bonus. Like, you know, if Wisconsin had won that match, you know, it would be exciting in a different way, but you kind of get Nebraska, Texas, familiar foes, but foes that don't play, play by chance for the most part at this stage. So, and it's a different kind of thing. Wisconsin's big, but kind of plays a Big Ten brand of volleyball. Texas is super explosive, athletes all over the court, as you'd expect. They made it look kind of shockingly easy to me against Wisconsin, and they did it from the service line. I mean, they had 11 aces in 4 sets. That's probably, that's almost always the key. It's as simple as like staying on schedule in football. Whoever serves the best is probably going to win. Nebraska had 5 aces in its 3 sets against Pitt, so it's not like it was on and off night. But it's a big tough opponent. Texas is pretty hot right now. I think they were the 7th overall seed coming into the tournament. So, and really 1 point away from losing in the regional semifinal. So that's a little bit dangerous when you're facing a team like that.
Brandon, what do you make of the fact that they are putting volleyball up against the NFL on ABC? NFL is a juggernaut in America.
I love that.
What does that mean to you that in the year of our Lord 2023, the powers that be have decided to put NCAA volleyball up against the NFL? And this is not a expecting volleyball to go get killed in ratings, I don't think. I think that means something about this sport and its growth this year.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's huge to put it on a Sunday afternoon. All the coaches were asked about it this week, what's, having this extra day. And, I think both Nebraska and Texas was kind of like, yeah, we don't know what exactly to do because we've never had it before. So to put volleyball, it's a clear showcase for the sport. And yeah, you're going up against professional football, which nobody ever wants to do. But let's see what it can do. It's finally, I think the showcase befitting like how good this championship match is. And, people will watch, I think, if you tell people like, yeah, this is it, they're deciding the champion of X sport in college, people will watch at greater numbers than they do normally. But volleyball is a really fun, exciting sport to watch. So I expect it to do pretty well ratings-wise.
Brandon Vogel with us as we get set for Nebraska and Texas on Sunday in the national championship game for volleyball. After watching Nebraska in this tournament, what strikes you in terms of maybe what Nebraska has added and or what they're exhibiting? I'll just share kind of one of my things. I feel like their level of sophistication has just increased, like especially like a Merritt Beeson. She was like toying with them with her serve in set 3 last time. They just seem like, it's one thing to say you're playing at another level, but it's another thing to say, it really did appear like 4D chess versus you're over there playing Connect 4. Like, it was just they were so comprehensively better at like every spot. That's what stands out to me is it really feels like they are playing at such an elite high level that, man, if you're going against them, you better be comprehensively ready to go.
Yeah, they can find a weakness and figure out a way to exploit it. They're very malleable. And I would say the thing that jumps out to me about the tournament is, okay, Nebraska only lost 1 match all season. So they came in at a pretty high level, but some of their best players have even elevated as the stakes have gone up. Beeson being the first one who comes to mind. She had 4 aces, 4 of Nebraska's 5 aces against Pitt. Two of them were just like absolute gems. She's playing at a super high level. Becca Alec, who's sort of the emotional center of this team, I think, has had 2 of her best matches in the regional final and then the NCAA semifinal. So if you can keep getting those, nice, Jonathan. If you can keep getting those type of performances, Lexi Rodriguez is as steady as they come. Pittsburgh's coach was kind of lamenting how often they served her in that 3rd set, and Nebraska ended up hitting over 400 to put that match away. And that's kind of how it goes. It's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but there's a reason John Cook talks about serve and pass all the time. It's how these games are decided.
One more thing, Brandon, just in terms of the level of talent, maybe for folks that don't follow volleyball as closely, but are just like, cool, volleyball team's winning, let's go watch them, right? I view it as they have, if I was to guess, I see like 4 potential Olympians on this team, maybe more. I want to see where you're at with that. So Lexi's a shoe-in to me. Like Lexi will compete for the United States of America in the Olympics. I can say that with all certainty. Then I think Harper Murray's a serious candidate. I think Riley's a serious candidate. I think Andy Jackson's a serious candidate. And then I think Beeson, really. I mean, literally, I think you have 5 bona fide, like, Olympians on a roster at one time at Nebraska right now.
But you're going up against 2 at Texas that could be Olympians in their own right, in Asia O'Neal and Skinner. You have 2 that have a very, very good, very, very good case for Team USA in their own right. Like, the way I see Sunday is it has potential to be one of those matches that goes down in volleyball history, not just because of how great the matchup is and how great the teams are, but because of the window that it's in. Being on an NFL Sunday, what it can do for the sport. Sunday has a feeling of being one of those potentially, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Monumental.
Clash of legends before their time, right?
Sure, like one of those moments that you look back on in volleyball history as being like, that's a moment the sport changed.
Yeah, it could, and I think that's a good way to look at it when you tally up all the potential future Olympians on the court on Sunday. It's going to be and I mean, there's players on both sides who, at the lower age levels already have international experience playing for the U.S. national team. Bergen Riley being one of them. I think to Mark's point, behind Lexi, which I agree, it's just like, we're just waiting for
sign her up. Sign her up.
I think Bergen Riley's probably your next top option based on what we've seen. She's only a true freshman. So is Murray. I think a player like Murray is at Nebraska to become that type of player, that 6 rotation player as a hitter. She's got some things to work on, in terms of the back row stuff. Teams really
she's had some good ups in the tournament, though.
She has. Teams, she's still kind of, and I mean, it's all relative, right? But like teams tend to target her in the serve, and that'll change as she grows and matures as a player. She's already really high, at a really high level, and it wouldn't shock me, Beeson, super skilled, can play the 6 rotations. I think she would be in the mix, and then we'll see. I mean, it's just to Elijah's point, like it's really about as good as it can get in terms of like pure volleyball talent, but also kind of pure volleyball.
Brandon Vogel, counterread.com, at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, tell folks about Counter Read, how they get a hold of it, and what's going on with you.
Yeah, you can visit us at counterread.com. That's a Substack from myself and Aaron Sorensen. We put out two subscriber-exclusive newsletters a week, do a couple of free things as well every now and again. But if you want to read more of my thoughts on Nebraska-Texas volleyball, that newsletter went out to subscribers just this morning. If you want to sign up for a free trial first, you can check it out and get access to read that. But we are also, through at least the end of tomorrow, we said we were going to run this deal as long as Nebraska was in the NCAA tournament, and they made it to the end. So we are offering 20% off an annual subscription. Nice. If you want to sign up now at counterread.com.
Vogues, appreciate you. Mm-hmm. We'll check in next week. Okay, man?
All right, guys. Have a good one.
There he is, Brandon Vogel. Let's head to the Iron Horse.
Let me get some
Gary
coffee.
Sharp.
Let me get some right back.
What are we doing?
Sharpie, I thought you
pick my victory lap. Hold on.
I thought Sharpie was going to show up on camera this morning wearing a lei, with Raiola.
Where's Kraynak going?
I don't know. I think he's getting some coffee.
He called the Raiola Club. He's going to go work his sources again and see who else Nebraska may be flipping within the next week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We get Mark's take on that before the end of the show because he's got a Nostradamus streak going on.
He does. How about the week, Sharpie? How are you?
Wow, it's the wonderful world as the world turns around quarterbacks and 17 to 18-year-old kids, huh?
Yeah.
What a wild week for Nebraska football. From the standpoint of this isn't supposed to happen to a team that hasn't been to a bowl game in 7 years. And then you're like, whoa, is this really happening? Oh, man, it's not. wait a minute, I like part of it, I don't like the other part. And then when we get to Wednesday and there's actually ink that is put on a contract, we're going to be like, this is how a big-time program that's got a brand should act. And then we're going to get, like, should every offseason be like this? Should it just be chaos in the last 10 days? But I've never seen something like this, especially the other day when you had the Raiola news come down, Kyle McCord's on campus. But I think what happened through it all this week is there was the domino of Raiola saying, something's not right in Athens. Let's call those guys in Lincoln, to how it affected two quarterbacks in particular, actually three quarterbacks in particular, to get us to this point where at some point today, Dylan Raiola will say he's in for Nebraska. And that's a big deal for this football program. And then we'll see what the after effect is in the next couple of days or in the next couple of years.
All right, hey Gary, we're gonna dig into the Hail Varsity Weekend Edition archives real quick. I found the clip from a couple of weeks ago. I'm just gonna play that real quick. Yeah, I did. Here, I'm just gonna play it real quick. Okay, ready? I bet you Dylan Raiola will flip to Nebraska. Gary Sharp. No, he won't. Mark. Yeah, he will. Okay, that was the clip.
Well played.
Welcome to the Mark Kraynak victory lap here on the weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio.
No,
okay,
in all seriousness.
So let me ask you, and here, the end result is Nebraska is getting a Hawaiian Andrew Luck that could be so impactful on and off the field. And I know a lot of people were throwing his name around. So did you know that last weekend in Athens, Georgia, something would go sour? Did you already look ahead and knew that? Because that's what happened. And Nebraska, because of their past relationship, and Nebraska were able to benefit from a generational talent saying, you know what, I want to look elsewhere.
No, in all seriousness, I just saw it as a thing that you could not count out until literally signing day, just because of the connection. And just if you look at it, and I don't know exactly what happened at Georgia, and no, I didn't know that would happen. But I'm just saying, it's like Nebraska was going to be given the benefit of the doubt, unlike any other program in America.
Yeah, I don't know.
In his mind.
I don't know, Mark. So you got to understand here this situation. So let's go back to a week ago today. Nebraska's making the final arrangements to get McCord here.
Yep.
Dylan Raiola is not in the picture. Dylan Raiola was going to Athens to take a physical because he would basically be moving in today. So something happened. I mean, they were pretty aware that Carson Beck was coming back. So something on some other level, it could be NIL or some promises that were made, just didn't seem right. And Dom's a business guy, man. You don't play 14 years in the NFL and have sons and daughters like he has that are athletes. You're a business person. Your son is kind of a client. I know that sounds a little, but that's where we are in today's college athletics. So on Saturday, Nebraska's making plans to get Kyle McCord here. On Monday morning, Kyle McCord is their guy. He's their guy. He's their starting quarterback in 2024. Or at least he's going to be the most veteran guy in that room. But they knew on Sunday that Dylan Raiola said, I want to come to Nebraska. So it's a weird dynamic because Nebraska was going forward with the McCord visit, knowing on Sunday that Dylan Raiola wanted to come to Nebraska. So they were trying to balance, we'd love to have both. Who wouldn't? But then you have to make a choice. And Matt Rule made a choice of the guy that has more upside of a freshman coming in than a one-year guy. And it's the world of college football right now. The calendar is so screwed up. But through it all, Nebraska's going to be able to – they went from possibly having 2 5-stars guys to having 1 5-star to retaining the other high school quarterback in your class, which I will tell you on Monday was not in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Danny knew about McCord. Danny didn't know about Dylan. And I'm glad that he's going to stay and compete because Danny's been chasing Dylan for a while now. So let's get in there and compete. But you can see as a 17-year-old, all of a sudden your world is turned upside down. So schools are like, hey, let's call the 402. Michigan State's in play. Well, then Michigan State with Jonathan Smith brings basically his quarterback from Oregon State. And is there room for you? Now you got a kid that is confused on man, I want to go to Nebraska, and they're going to honor my scholarship, but am I going to play? Does anybody want me? And then last night, I think you got just until Wednesday, a confirmation that Danny Kaelin is still in. And then you go, man, what's Brock Purdy going to do after today? He's got his degree, but he's got groin surgery that he just had. And I mean, it's been a wild week, but this is probably how Nebraska should operate. They should always be searching for the best options to upgrade the roster, regardless of the feelings it hurts or the ground that you scorch. And I think you have a person that's in control, that they know how to play these type of games, that on Wednesday when Nebraska has signing day, you're going to go, and it might not be over. You're going to go, damn, this might be the time where Nebraska flips, and maybe it actually equates to something on the field.
This is put your money where your mouth is moment for the program, for Matt Rule, and for everything. Like if you say you're going to be about competition, yeah, bring it. Like, yeah, and if you're on the team and you're somehow butthurt by that, step up and get better.
Well, don't you guys think
like that's the opposite of what Frost did with the Burrow situation.
Okay, so
right?
You guys have talked about this. I think it's important about communication. Yeah, we all want competition. There's a lot of dads are involved these days. Why? I think that's why. That's why football coaches like. I think that's why football coaches like moms. Moms are a less hassle to the football coach than the dad is. So, but here's the thing: we all want competition, and I'll give Rule the benefit of the doubt, because he doesn't strike me as this guy that says, Mark Kraynak walks in, he's got his son by his side, and he says, "I want that kid to start at quarterback. If he doesn't start at quarterback, I'm not coming here." And Rule goes, "Yeah, Mark, man, I got to have that guy at quarterback. I love you, man. I know what you mean to the program. Your kid's starting." Rule doesn't strike me as that. But Rule does strike me because we've seen now evidence of you can handle these situations with just the simple part of communicating, guys.
Yeah, you do.
Let everybody know where they're at. That's the thing among things that Scott was at fault as. He was not up front with guys and said, this is the deal. Instead, he left it very gray, and then he let you decide. I think Rule communicates well on where you stand, what's going to happen, and if you do blank, this is going to be the result. So I think we can all take the honesty and go, thanks, coach. I know where I stand. Let's go get him. Instead of, whoa. Plus, another thing, guys, you can't lie to your football team. They're around their fellow teammates every single day, and they can see the guys that put in the work or are the best in practice. If you lie to your team and it looks like you're playing favorites, have fun with that locker room.
You just nailed it. You just nailed it from the top down of communication to how the culture is. And, yes, that locker room is your ultimate judge and jury. I mean, they are going to know who's getting the special treatment or who gives them the best chance to win, because you've got a number of guys in that room that, man, they're dying to win because they haven't won. But, Sharpie, I want to get your take here on just some other possible developments. Do you think Nebraska, and I know the numbers crunch is real, and are you good with the run? I mean, I don't want to get off quarterbacks too much here, but are you good with the running back room? And I ask that because there's been a lot of questions that come up in the stream, especially this morning, about is Nebraska going to do anything? Is there anything on the radar running back wise?
Guys, we've talked about it for a couple of weeks now. I don't like their running back room. I mean, there's a lot of great unknown. I don't like how it was coached this past year, how it was managed. Yeah, you can tell me you got a couple of guys that went down with injuries, but and I think your two weakest links on that staff are the person that coaches running backs and the person that coaches quarterbacks. It looks like you're fixing your quarterback issue.
I didn't see it with running backs. I'd like you to expand on that a little bit.
I just didn't think they were very well coached in terms of reading holes, vision, rotation. I don't think the whole thing was handled very well.
Okay. Interesting. I thought I saw Emmett Johnson go from, a wily young player who was years away from contributing to kind of getting him ready to at least compete and hold his own.
I thought that too, Mark. I thought that too until I asked some questions. They said, no, Emmett actually has been that guy. He just needed an opportunity, which is great because now he's in the mix for 24, but is he a 3-down back? And where he fits and how does that affect other guys? No, Emmett Johnson, Emmett Johnson finally got to show off what has been there. That's what because I thought, oh man, there's a guy that developed, and then I was told, well, he's kind of been that guy. He's shown it. He just had some guys in front of him, so he finally got to play. I look, are you guys comfortable with what they're going into to 24 with what they have in the running back room? There've been some high school running backs that they have, kicked the tires on, but either the guy from Sacramento, who I like, because I think you need a big running back. I think you need a guy that people bounce off of. They didn't communicate with him. And he wanted to come here, the kid from Sacramento. And I'm wondering, why are they not communicating with him? Are they going to wait? Are they going to wait and fill this hole on the back end of the portal? Or
might be a bad fit. Maybe
in February.
Yeah, it might be a bad fit with Barthel, right? I mean, it could be. It doesn't mean he's a bad coach and can't coach anywhere, but maybe he's a guy that needs to be in the Northeast where the talent's just around him and he can work his local connections, and that's better versus a Nebraska where you got to spray out to the entire nation and recruit. You got to put a lot more into recruiting basically when you're at Nebraska than you do elsewhere. So that's interesting. We'll see if there are any changes there. How about this, by the way? The high school that Gabe Irvin and Anthony Grant came from, that's the high school where Raiola's been. I think maybe a silver lining here of, not that this was the plan all along, but if it was, how brilliant. And maybe we'll find out in 20 years when someone writes the expose. Look at what Raiola did, right? So he's got the Phoenix area on lockdown, right? He knows that area, knows all the top guys there. Everybody knows Raiola, loves him. Now so does Atlanta, right? Everybody knows him, and he's the man there. People in Ohio State recruiting circles, all those cats that Ohio State is recruiting, he knows all those fools. Georgia, same deal. Like this guy now, Raiola, he's got to be one of the more connected players in the country. And so for him to now bring that to Nebraska, it's going to have that magnetic effect. I think you could still see some changes to this current class with some new guys getting added and maybe a few other guys moving on just because of that Raiola effect. Because I think you're going to now have access to guys that you didn't have access to a week ago.
Is he bringing his Louis?
Well, I think Mark makes a great point, and I've heard Elijah mention this as well, is when you have a high-profile recruit, especially a quarterback, all the kids know him because they run across him in camps or Elite 11s, or we all got YouTube, okay? Dylan Raiola has been in the spotlight for 4 years. So everybody around the country knows who he is. And he started to work on the flipping on Sunday. I'm sure Nebraska said, whoa. We don't have much space, and we can't put a freshman on an NIL scholarship. Nebraska doesn't have to do anything until fall camp, but they're going to have, spring will be, I think, a moment where it becomes pretty evident who's going to play and not play. And so maybe some of those guys that are still on scholarship that didn't play this past year when it seemed like everybody got an opportunity to play, they may leave. But, yeah, Raiola is a guy that can help flip. You got two linebackers that are on campus. One decommitted from Miami yesterday because they simply ran out of space because they're more into recruiting portal guys right now than high school guys. And then you have another one who Nebraska has, already had some interest in going all the way back to the spring from Oregon. But who was here that time of the year? That was Raiola. So, yeah, there's a bounce. There's a bounce that you can get. And that's if you have to choose two guys, you choose the guy that's going to help you with momentum and is going to impact you now, later, and beyond. But it's wild how this could happen. It's tough this late to have peer recruiting because you don't have space and it's at the 11th hour instead of, man, can you imagine what would have happened back in May?
I think Brandon's spot on here in the comments in the stream. Tinfoil hat. Part of the plan the whole time. Part of the plan the whole time. Raiola, go get in, infiltrate. I mean, this is like a Russia PSYOP, right? Like, this is exactly what this is. This is some Putin-level stuff.
That's major tinfoil hat stuff.
Yes,
it's a little out there for me. Little out there for me.
Gary Sharp is with us.
Infiltrate the enemy.
The weekend edition of Hail Varsity. Sharpie, now let's just talk about the upgrade at quarterback that Raiola potentially will be. When we talk skill set, development, his grooming for this moment. And I know there's a lot of pressure. There's the Nebraska factor here, but we've not seen a quarterback potentially like this ever here, have we? I mean, guys, a guy that comes in and just has the tools to scan the defense. He's big, he's physical, and he's got arm talent that's pretty elite.
Yeah, he's the Hawaiian Andrew Luck, is what he is. There's something special about him, and I think now you go all in on he's your starting quarterback against UTEP. I would still think they need to get a veteran in that room.
Day one, you think?
Day one. You still need to get a veteran in that room. I'd like to see somebody that, I love winning programs. You guys were mentioning earlier, Buford, the high school that he came from. I love that Nebraska got an offensive lineman out of Bishop Gorman in Vegas because all they do is win. So I like high schools that win. Westside has a winning culture. They're starting to turn guys towards Nebraska. So I think day one, hey, freshmen have played here before. You remember 2018, a freshman played. But I think you work around the skill set of what he brings, and that is a big boy arm. He can throw into a tight window. He can throw guys open. Now, I want to see the consistency. I want people to go and watch, if you can find it on YouTube, a full game, not just highlight reels, because he's still got some things to work on. And, if you pair him with a guy that is big into technique and works on the footwork and the release, then you can start working on, I can scan the field. I can tell that Dylan has some good football DNA because he does scan the field. And he's played with some pretty good wide receivers in high school. I mean, he's had a couple of nice, really high school teams. But I think what he does is as he develops and he gets up to the speed of the college game, guys, he's going to elevate that wide receiver room. We already know what is here. So guys are going to be thrown open. Guys are going to be able to, if they run routes, they're going to run routes the right way. They're going to get rewarded. They're going to be thrown catchable balls. I think a guy, don't forget about him coming up on Wednesday. Nebraska's done a great job of keeping Barney in the mix because he's a long way away from where he's going to go to college. A lot of people like him.
Ja'Cory Barney.
Yes.
Ja'Cory Barney. And Ja'Cory Barney is what?
A wide receiver.
For folks that,
yes. Okay. And so Nebraska likes him a lot. I think he's another guy that's going to fit right into the mix. I think he'll elevate the wide receivers. But I just think you got a guy that has got a huge upside and has already got a great baseline. Now what do you do with it? The big thing is, what do you do with him, how you coach him? But you can't do this. What they did with Adrian is they didn't build around him. So Nebraska, if you look at Scott Frost's 5 years of getting verbal commitments from offensive linemen, there were a couple of years in there where they had just two. They just had one. They had a big year his second year. Rule the last 2 years has gotten 11 verbal commitments. So it's Nebraska's mindset of building in and then moving out. But you've got to put pieces around him. You can't just get a guy like a Dylan Raiola and say, hey, here you go. Get us to a bowl game. Yeah. Your job as the CEO of the program is let's build around him. So ball catchers, which I like that phrase that was used yesterday. I like big men in front of him. And you help him instead of saying, hey, you help us. Say, no, we already like you. We're going to help you. And I think that's something that Nebraska has failed to do when they've had a generational talent on either side of the ball to build around them. They've just said, you're so good, just go do your good things.
Gary, really fast, you mentioned the ball catcher thing, and I think that's a reference to Desmond Demas. Can we talk about what the hell was going on there? Because that feels like a weird situation all around, from like, he says he's coming to Lincoln. It doesn't sound like he actually has a visit lined up. From what I've been told, that has not been an interest from Nebraska for a couple of months now, but now he wants to come.
Is Demas allowed to leave the state is my question.
Listen, and for folks that don't know, former Texas A&M guy transferred Garden City, 5-star receiver. Sorry.
Doesn't it feel like, hey, I know I've got a passionate fan base that is just eating up stuff. Let's get some people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Hey, more Instagram followers, more Twitter followers. That's, as the day went on, that's what it seemed like to me. I thought it was still a little remote for him to be here this weekend because there's a lot of questions about, is he eligible, when he'd be here, what's going on, Nebraska's comfort level with his past. That was one of those things we've seen before, I think, guys, where you get a Nebraska fan base engaged, you get a lot of attention, and then you're like, oh, that's why he was doing that.
Who was the quarterback, not Tebow, with Leak. That was the third down jump pass.
That was Tebow.
No, but
Leak was the starter on their first national championship team.
Then who was it later? I swear they had another quarterback that was just a
Cam Newton.
just that kind of role. No, at Florida. Anyway, I can't remember.
Cam Newton was at Florida.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't him. No, Newton, was he at Florida or Florida State?
No,
Florida.
he went to Florida and then he got kicked out.
Regardless, that's not the name. I'll find it. I'll bring it up next week. There's somebody else that was like that. But anyway, to me, that's going to be Harburg. I think Harburg is going to have still like a package of goal line. Hold on for a second. Listen,
Sharpie's face says no.
No, it wasn't Rex Grossman either, Greg, in the stream. No, it was not Rex Grossman. No, what I'm saying is I think he makes a permanent position move to like a tight end, right? Or a slot. Why are you guys laughing so hard?
I'm laughing at Sharpie's face when you brought up Harburg and quarterback.
I'm not trying to, dude. Listen to this. It is horrible. That's horrible. Leave the kid alone. All right, come on. He got a couple W's. You got a couple W's.
All I'm saying is
he pulled back for the screen and
from what I saw from Heinrich Harburg.
Thank you,
this
Belldozer.
past season.
Yeah.
Blake Bell.
Yeah, he did not go to Florida.
Oklahoma, not Florida.
Yeah,
sorry,
but,
it was. Sorry. Yes, you were definitely right, Walter. It was Belldozer.
What we saw in Heinrich Harburg last year, if you have Dylan Raiola on the football field and you put Heinrich Harburg in on a third down,
Jerry, open your eyes.
This fan base may never forgive Marcus Satterfield. That's all I'm.
Listen.
Well, okay, so let's just.
I'm saying, I haven't even really finished my point. Just hold on.
Are you going to go in your closet and grab your Taysom Hill jersey as well?
Thank you. This is the guy that Harburg is going to be like tight end type, but then when it's like 2nd and 1 from the goal line,
you hand it off.
Yeah, you bring in Harburg. Harburg is going to be your little Swiss Army knife because he is athletic enough with the ball. He's big enough. He's a matchup problem. I'm not saying he's going to be the permanent quarterback and beat out Raiola. I'm not. Or Purdy, for that matter. Or Kaelin.
I love Harburg. But
there is a spot for him on the team.
And the ball,
and that's what it'll be.
Okay,
yeah, it's called H-back.
They need a veteran in that quarterback room because right now you have a incoming freshman who thankfully will be here for spring. You have Purdy, you have Harburg, and a bunch of walk-ons.
It'll be Purdy is the veteran.
So let me ask you guys this, because I think there's one guy in this mix that has gained a lot of power in the last 48 to 72 hours. Who's more important to Nebraska in 2024? Because also, you know that two guys are going to start a game. I mean, Tanner Lee ain't walking back through that door where he says, I got it, guys. I'll start all 12. So probably
Purdy starts the first 4, Raiola takes over. That's my prediction. Go on.
What are you, back in 1993 again?
No.
Or what, 92?
No.
That was the Mike Grant, Tommy Frazier. So who's more important in Nebraska football as of today, Harburg or Purdy?
Purdy.
Okay. Because Purdy has – so the staff feels like Purdy has more of an upside. But we have no idea what Purdy wants to do, which is kind of uncomfortable because, you'd like to have him in that room to see what he can do. Here's the thing, what we don't know, and I don't mean to crush Harburg, and I think a Taysom Hill role would suit him well, is Nebraska's going to have a new guy that's directing that room. What impact does it have? Yeah. Because my pushback when I've always said, man, Harburg and Purdy development is you should have seen him in spring. That's the response you get from Lincoln is look at him now, but man, you should have seen him in spring, so what do you want? And I get it. During the season, it's really tough to develop a quarterback because everything is about game prep. So it's not like you're working on technique. That's in the spring. That's in fall camp. So, spring at the quarterback position will be very curious. Nebraska has you add Raiola, what kind of a jump do they make as a group? Not just one guy, but what do they make as a group?
Exactly.
Because they're going to need at least 2 quarterbacks, and they might need 3 as the season goes along.
Yeah, we didn't get to the wackiest story of the week here, which is now up on the screen. Casey Thompson, despite all the wackiness of this week, I think Casey Thompson deciding to come back to Lincoln threw a wrench into everyone's storylines and just created the wackiest storyline I've probably ever seen in Nebraska football.
There's your vet quarterback.
Which, by the way, he has not decided to do. He has not decided.
No, he's not, but he's got a 7th year of eligibility.
I know, but that Elijah made it seem like that's deciding to come back.
No, he's not deciding to come back. It was just so wacky that we wake up on Friday morning like, is Casey Thompson going to be a Husker again? Like that was, in a wacky week, maybe the wackiest storyline.
Well, we got another Casey video. Remember, right after spring football ended, he was throwing in the Hawks Championship Center. We got a Casey video of him throwing with Emmett Johnson the other day. And then Danny Kaelin said, not so fast. I got 2 Huskers. I'm going to throw passes to Fedoni and Hall. Next thing you know, Raiola is going to put out a video this morning, and he's throwing with the entire team.
Gary, as somebody who's been around the program a long time and been following all this, the only comp I can come up with, I'm not saying he's going to produce at the same level, but in terms of the reaction of the fan base and the understanding of how significant it is that Raiola is seemingly going to commit, I think you have to go back to Frazier 91, where it's just like when Frazier committed at that moment in that time, everybody that followed the program closely kind of knew. Everybody was just sort of like, ooh, that's different. That is different. There are a lot of pieces in place at this program right now. And now you're getting this dude, Tommy, that is so brash, so confident, so perfect for that offense. Look the hell out. Right? Like, you just knew it. You knew that dude was going to change things.
Dude,
I feel like Raiola.
I don't want to put him in that category.
Listen,
man, we're talking
now we have
about,
the benefit of hindsight. Because now we have the benefit of hindsight.
Hey,
I'm talking in the moment.
Okay.
I'm talking in the moment of him recruiting. We knew how significant it was. I feel like this is the same thing because it has dominated the entire week, unlike any other recruit I can remember since Frazier.
Okay, I'll give you, in terms of attention, where you think, man, this is the guy. Remember what our discussion was like when Adrian committed right away to Frost. But I want to go back to probably about 20 years ago, right? Remember the attention around Harrison Beck?
Yeah.
Where a head coach got his quarterback and we went, dang, that might be the guy to put you over the top.
Along with Leon Jackson, it was can't miss. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's I think that the thing here, first of all, you got to get the kid in your program and let him settle in. And then I also think you have to let him breathe because there will be so many expectations on him, and there should be, but some of them will be just outrageous.
I think that's why it works, though, Gary. I think that's why it works because, and the same with Frazier. Heap as much pressure as you want on the guy. He doesn't. Well, we're
about to find out because when you get squeezed, what comes out is what your true thing is. So there's going to be a lot of squeezing because you expect him to be the guy to turn the corner of this program. And if he comes out and he's a baller, then it's game on. Then it has changed the trajectory of Nebraska football.
Nothing's going to surprise Raiola about this place. So nothing. He grew up in it. He gets it entirely. Well, he's been around the NFL guys.
You do, but hey, until you have boots on the ground, Mark, you don't really truly understand what that position and what that name is until you're walking around here. Yeah, you can go to basketball games, you can go to baseball games, and everybody knows you. But now it's real. I'm glad that we're done with the whole recruiting stuff. Okay, now it's time to play football. That's when you find out that this is a pressure cooker. Not everybody can handle it. He's got a background that says he can. That's why I can't wait for this to just get going and play some football and see how this unfolds. But at some point, we're going to have to let the kid breathe. And that's where the program comes in of, hey, we're just going to let you be you in this program and help you get to where you want to go. That also brings a football program with you.
It's not real until you're sitting in that 100-level psychology course at UNL,
Sharpie
181, I believe.
Sharpie real quick. Let's we talk about these freshman quarterbacks that get the opportunity. It's what they want. They're 5-star and they land and they're freshmen. Big difference with what's their supporting cast. Okay. And let's just go there for 2 seconds before we say goodbye. What
nice try, Chris. We're going
what's around him say Raiola commits and then wins the job, do you like the offensive line, the wideouts, the defense, these parts he's walking into as you look to 2024?
Okay, so
the help.
Yeah, I think they're in a good spot offensively. We don't know what good quarterback play does to everybody, right? We
really don't.
But I'm talking about elevating players around you with just simple good quarterback play.
That is so funny. I mean, just think about what you just said. Like, we literally don't. Husker fans are like, what's it like to have a good quarterback that knows how to play quarterback?
I'm saying
what does that do to an offensive lineman when a quarterback doesn't hold the ball too long, that knows when to get rid of it?
That's actually what worries me about Raiola. He stands in there till the last millisecond. I think it's time to adjust.
And so that's where you adjust as an offensive lineman. Yeah. I think on offensive line, you got a lot of veterans coming back, but can you build depth behind him? That's another thing to worry about. That's why spring football becomes very fascinating, because it's not like you'll have a ton of new faces. I mean, people have been here for a while. I also think this, and I'm going to watch this very closely, on both sides of the ball. Rule is big on year 2, not just the results like that are on his resume, but also of guys developing. I think he, I think he took a little pushback on why some of the portal guys didn't pop sooner. And he was like, well, you know what? Year 2 of portal guys, I think that's when they pop. Well, okay, does that apply to guys that were already here? That in year 2, with some familiarity and some comfortability, then all of a sudden we start to see them grow. So if that happens, man, you're cooking with peanut oil. But again, we don't know. We always talk about Amir. Amir was able to cover up a lot of warts on that offense. And after he was gone, they reared their ugly head. Well, you could have a quarterback that's here for at least 3 years. Does he cover up some of the things that ails Nebraska offensively right now that you can fix in the meantime because you have to? That's what I can't wait to see, if that's really true. And that shows you how good Dylan Raiola is and can be if he can single-handedly do that. Because we haven't talked a lot about around here. We've wanted to, but it hasn't come to fruition of, hey, man, this is a quarterback team. Man, that quarterback, he can go out and win games. We tried that with Adrian. Again, pieces around him didn't necessarily fit together, and he was poorly managed. Maybe we get to that point where you have a quarterback that on Saturday, I don't even have to worry about it. He's going to go out and make 2 or 3 plays a game that he's going to win it for us.
Well, to your point, Gary, about how long it's been, as far as my research can show me, do you know who the only Husker over the last 3 decades is to throw a pass in a regular season NFL game?
Ooh.
Rex Burkhead.
Schmidt ruined it. Schmidt ruined it. It's Rex Burkhead. Yeah. As far as I can tell, he is 0 for 2 in his NFL career throwing the ball.
Oh, Superman.
Yeah, here's one quick thing. One quick thing here about 24. So let's roll with Raiola as the guy, and Raiola has a good freshman year because, wow, surprise, there are freshman quarterbacks that start in college big boy football nowadays and do well. Think about what he does for your future. Like the momentum that you pick up. We have lamented, guys, about Nebraska never recruited to Sioux. Yep. Well, I mean, they didn't. They never recruited to blank. They never used a good year off of a certain player to recruit to them. Mm-hmm. That's what could happen in 24 is you establish your offense, you have a really good quarterback, you start to build off of him, and then it becomes a kind of a plug and play because you have the culture, you have the game plan, you have the talent that are all set. That's when you turn the corner and it starts to pop.
Mm-hmm. Got in the stream, Zach Taylor never threw a pass in the NFL. I don't believe he did. I don't believe he made 52. Yeah, he didn't make a final roster. A couple Huskers that are so they're on the current roster, and it's a roll of the dice of whether or not they'll come back. But 2 guys I think are really important for someone like Dylan Raiola and his level of maturity, and if he's the guy from day one. Marcus Washington, you don't know if he's going to get his extra year of eligibility. That seems kind of unlikely, I think, if we had to guess. But a receiver like that, right? Big target. So imagine Kemp at 6'2", basically. Dependable, going to get open, tough, a security blanket, veteran receiver. I think he really needs that. Whether it's Washington or you get somebody out of the portal, You need that security blanket guy. And then another guy, I think, too, is somebody like a Ramir. Somebody that when things break down, just flip it over to him, right? Like somebody that's reliable, can catch it out of the backfield, get you a few yards. You pair Raiola up with a veteran in the backfield that can catch, and a veteran receiver that isn't going to alligator arm anything and is going to catch anything thrown at him, or at least try. I feel like he needs that. How critical is that, Gary? That if Washington, like, you can't assume Washington's coming back. Do you have to go get that fifth-year receiver, that dependable Westerkamp, Washington type?
First of all, thanks for the cameo of Mrs. Schmidt.
Hey, buddy.
So you know what? That's the thing. Like, I thought Fleming was that guy. What you're describing is Nebraska needs a possession wide receiver.
Yeah, dependable. Washington's that guy if he's healthy.
Yeah, but I just don't know what the path would be for him to get an extra year.
I know.
It's completely different from the 2-time transfer waiver that was announced yesterday. So I think that path to get him an extra year is, unless Nebraska invents something. I agree with you about a possession guy, but I would like to wait and see what happens with the current wide receiver room in the spring. Remember, we're all caught up in the current portal window. Last year turned out to be one of the interesting spring portal windows for Nebraska. Guys they lost and then guys they tried to add. So I don't know if they just say, you know what, we got some young wide receivers. I mean, Demetrius Bell might win the offseason around here, and he hadn't even played, but everybody brings him up. So I think they want to see what they got with the wide receivers before they start to make a move. I agree with you about a running back out of the backfield. What if that's Emmett Johnson?
Could be. Hey, he's got skills there too. They didn't use him a lot.
What if Nebraska? What if Nebraska with a quarterback that can complete a screen pass? My God, the stadium might fall down.
Blasphemy. By the way, Raiola, his deep ball. I mean, it's like Russell Wilson style, man. Just like if you're sitting in the East Stadium expansion, like, you are going to be eye level with the ball at some point, right? Like, that thing just goes. He throws it so damn high in the air. It's crazy.
Have you donated to 1890?
I have not.
Okay.
I want to go straight.
On behalf of the Raiolas, you have not donated?
No. I give my money to counterread.com and, and beer. Like, what? Why? I can't pay them directly. I'm just saying. How about you? Have you guys done it? By the way,
I'll say your proceeds.
When are the collectives going to give
your
something
proceeds
back?
on Cornhead Lager do benefit 1890? So in that way, I have technically.
My guys, that is a fantastic
beer. That is a fantastic beer, Cornhead Lager. I recommend you to try it. They do sponsor our show, so I am biased, but this is not a joke when I say I do go out of my way to go buy Cornhead Lager. It's a fantastic beer, easy drinking. It's not going to be something that's like, I love Cross Stain's Fairy Nectar as well. That's a less easy drinking beer. The Cornhead Lager, a great game day beer, easy drinking, good for a Saturday night, good for a volleyball national title at 2 p.m. on a Sunday.
Elijah's drunk on it right now. This is great.
Hey, I'll get Doug at Cross Drain, and so we'll each have one, maybe one of these shows here shortly, and we'll all just toast. At the end of the show, that's what we'll do.
Don't you feel like the Fairy Nectar is Nebraska's best chance right now at having a boulevard wheat-like distribution throughout the Midwest? I think that is Nebraska's best chance at an export that becomes a regional. It's
Nebraska's 5-star right now.
Player.
I'll also give a free shout out. Love the copper alt from Zipline. Folks at Zipline do a great job as well. Yeah. Love Zipline.
I live 2 blocks from Zipline.
Listen to Elijah just shout. How did we go from Raiola to shouting out favorite beers?
The Snow Beast down at Kincaid, also a fantastic winter beer. That's a good one.
Can I get a what for Devil's Gap?
Devil's Gap, the jalapeno ale, so good.
Now the next step is you got a head football coach who likes his bourbon, not really a beer drinker.
Yeah, where's Cut Spike at? Nebraska, distillery-wise, doesn't have that kind of signature.
So the bourbon that Rule likes is local.
Do you have a name?
I don't know the exact name. I want to say it's in Fremont. It is barreled in Fremont, but he likes some local bourbon.
Low-key, downtown Fremont, legit. It is. I'm telling you, you get there, dude, they have a legit Mexican restaurant, legit whiskey bar, legit like Italian restaurant, legit steak restaurant.
That was not a quote I was expecting to get on this Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. How did we get to downtown Fremont?
Have you guys seen what Dylan Raiola and Nebraska playing for a national championship against our most hated rival tomorrow has done to Kraynak?
I know.
Yeah.
Hey,
what do you think?
3 months lit.
What do you think would happen to? She's already extremely popular and she's a brick wall. What if Becca Alec blocks a Texas middle tomorrow and goes horns down?
Ooh, she will.
Viral moment.
She will do that. I don't think there's any question. And in fact, if she wasn't like that, that's the only reason why Andy Jackson doesn't play all the time. Because
I think you could make the argument if that happens, that could be the biggest moment in women's college volleyball history, just because everyone on the internet loves any sort of horns down ever whenever somebody's playing Texas. That could be bigger. I mean, like, we know Volleyball Day in Nebraska was huge with its viralness for women's college volleyball. But going horns down...
Virality.
Whatever. Is it?
I'm just kidding. I don't know what it is. No,
I think that's in... Anyway, let's move on from that.
That's virility.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not sure about that. Anyway.
Right, I'm calling this. Love you guys.
No, wait. I was trying to say, in the national championship match, if there's a horns down moment, that will be absolutely massive for women's college volleyball.
It'll be great. You just better win if you're going to do horns down.
Yeah.
Laney Choboy is also a candidate to do that. She is.
No, just win. Do all the horns down you want, but just make sure you have more sets in the.
Hey, wouldn't you like to know what is in the drafts of Nebraska Volleyball's Twitter account? Because it's gotten kind of spicy on social media between teams when they win. They're awful
Especially
salty.
Texas and Nebraska, yeah.
So what do you think is sitting in each school's drafts for tomorrow? Do we remember the Lexi Sun tweet?
Exactly. Like the sun rises again in Nebraska or something like that. Yeah, they're totally called out. That was as low of a blow as I've seen a university account go, calling out a specific individual in college, calling out Lexi. That was wow. That was Texas, though. I mean, that's Texas. That's Texas. Of course they did that. Yeah. So, by the way, somebody in the stream earlier comment, and I know Chris wanted to call this, and he looks angry almost right now. Come on, Chris. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry that this thing went off the rails and we started talking about whatever the hell we were just talking about. But Dylan Raiola, somebody had put in there, the next Omaha West Side quarterback. It's actually not a. It's not a ridiculous thought.
No, I don't know. I imagine the family will move to Lincoln because they're very active. That will be, to get Dayton, that will be quite the recruiting twists and turns between Lincoln East and Lincoln Southeast.
What about Lincoln Christian? Why are you counting them out?
Well, you could go the role of Jared Bubach. What about Tommy Armstrong at North Star? Is that the recruiting pitch? That might be that. Now we might have to focus on the recruitment of Lincoln high schools for Dylan Raiola.
Ron Kellogg's at Standing Bear.
Oh. Hey, would it also surprise you if Dylan Raiola commits to Nebraska here in the near future?
No, it would not.
Yep.
No, you just got the lineage all the way through. Like Raiola's got Nebraska's 2020s handled.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm sorry we missed a game last night. I heard people were driving by Memorial Stadium. It was all lit up. They didn't tell anybody they were having a game. Today, I think today will be a good day for Nebraska football.
I think
you
you're
think
right.
You think today is the actual announcement of the commitment?
Yeah, I think in the next couple of hours.
Okay.
God,
and
it'd be so much cooler. I said it yesterday on the show. It'd be so much cooler if Nebraska volleyball wins a national title and then 90 minutes later on Twitter, Dylan Raiola puts up a commitment post. That would be an all-time moment in Husker history.
I think timing-wise, you do your own day. You let volleyball have their day tomorrow, and you put it out if you're ready to put it out today.
Well, I think if you're Nebraska football, I mean, it's a formality, but you would like it out there publicly in case somebody's on the fence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of lag time before Wednesday to bring some flips with him, possibly.
Man, just when we thought Nebraska couldn't be interesting in the offseason, just when we thought. Actually, we never thought that.
Well,
Nebraska's actually more interesting in the offseason.
You know what? They have this great brand, and they haven't backed it up on the field. They're finally acting like it here in the last couple of weeks because they can produce a bag. And instead of shying away from that, and that's old school, and I'm not comfortable with that, in Nebraska football, act like Nebraska football. Eventually going to have to do it on the field because we're all worn out. But if you're able to do that, why not act like it? And I think a head coach realized that the brand is still strong, and they got a good response. And then they got a week ago yesterday or tomorrow, they got this gift that has fallen back into their laps that now they can use to possibly turn the corner. It's amazing. This stuff isn't supposed to happen in Nebraska football. So that's why I say until the ink is dry, just hold the phone. Yep. And I'm not saying something's going to be a curveball. I'm just saying we all have known that, man, Lucy is looming in the background, and all of a sudden she's going to come and take our football.
Robert asked in the stream, does Dylan Raiola have to announce a decommitment before he can commit here? Not sure how that works. No, he does not.
No.
All it is talk until letter of intent signing day, which is Wednesday. So
yeah,
the kids can say whatever they want.
Yeah, they don't have polygamy in recruiting.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Technically, he doesn't even have to announce the Georgia decommitment. He just has to announce the Nebraska commitment. Whenever you think about it.
Sharpie, what else you got?
Polygamy in recruiting.
What else you got?
There's our show title. Polygamy in recruiting.
I'm not sure.
How are we getting all these downloads from Utah?
We also have tomorrow. I mean, Nebraska volleyball and Nebraska K-State are going at the same time.
I know.
Oh, I know. We haven't even talked about. Okay, if that doesn't tell you about the state of Husker athletics, right? A quarterback commit, not even a commit, and then a volleyball team. Like, we haven't even talked about Nebraska K-State, and I'm fine with that. And I think everybody else in the world's fine with it too. But that tells you a little bit about here, a little bit of a different place.
On that note, Schmidt's going to end the show 100%. I can see the look in his eyes.
Football rules the day until it doesn't.
Oh, Scott Frost to Iowa as OC? Is that is there smoke there? I feel like he would crumble the entire operation of how Iowa wants to win.
Joe Philbin is the guy that is mentioned the most over in Iowa.
Who's that guy, and what's he all about?
He's an older coach.
Will he play within that same kind of system in general?
So
just
remember,
control.
So whatever Kirk Ferentz wants as his offense, that's what he's going to get. And so he's got a strong connection. Joe Philbin is the guy that was, he was an analyst at Ohio State this past year, but everybody else,
his brother.
Well, everybody will know him as the head coach of the Dolphins, offensive coordinator for a year.
Yeah.
So that's the name. That's the name over in Iowa City that's being mentioned the most. He's got a strong connection with Kirk Ferentz. Now, Philbin is in his 60s, but that offense will only go like Kirk Ferentz wants it to go. And I think he shares similar ideas with Joe Philbin. So it appears to be trending that way. I know there was some contact between Frost. The Frost hire would have been a good hire, in my opinion, if Scott was ready to grind. Head down, go to work, and grind. It would have been an interesting, a difference of personality between him and Kirk, but
they would have had to change their whole approach to winning, though, if they,
I don't know. Kirk is pretty strong-handed. That's why I think a guy like Joe Philbin probably fits better with him than Frost. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because you can't just all of a sudden inject, tempo and it's like that would make the whole operation fall apart in Iowa.
It would be like if you could pull that marriage off, though, the Kirk Ferentz winning way with the Scott Frost offense. It kind of intrigues me in just terms of what that would look like and how successful it could be. But I don't think it's happening.
I think in Iowa,
defense would wear the hell out.
You'll never change your philosophy. Is you have an elite defense, you have an elite special teams group. Just don't screw it up on offense. But for 24 in Iowa City, it comes down to what offense benefits Cade McNamara, because that's going to be your starting quarterback. So Joe Philbin, who is 62, looks like he is the front runner to be the offensive coordinator, and he was an analyst at Ohio State this past year. But you remember, he's also an former offensive line coach in the NFL, which Kirk Ferentz, that's part of his background as well.
Somebody, who was it, Roger, in the stream, Iowa's out shopping for a golf simulator? As though that's how they're going to lure Frost, is the implication.
I don't know. You know where you'd have to go get the golden tee, the famous golden tee?
I have a friend, actually.
Is it still in the Hawks Center?
No, it is in the basement of the Pede family, which runs 1890.
How do you know that?
Really?
How do
Can
you
we
know
back
that?
up a little bit? What's going on here? The golf. So Golden Tee.
Yeah.
What's
video
going on
game.
with that?
I'm not
Yeah, I know.
like don't reveal this, but like, how on earth do you freaking know that? That's a rhetorical question.
Hold on.
Don't ask you to answer that question.
Golden
That's
Tee?
just, what the hell?
Where was Golden Tee during the Frost tenure? Where was this machine?
It was in the football offices.
It was in the football offices, and there was maybe a little bit too much Golden Tee being played, is the insinuation. And so that has been removed from the football offices.
Yeah.
Yep. Trev was not down. Trev's more of a Tecmo Bowl guy, right? Like, he's like, hey.
I think Trev's more of an Office Space guy where once that thing was removed, he's going to take a hammer to it like it's the copy machine that everyone hated.
By the way, this is real life that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I
This is
think
real
Trev
life.
is in. We don't treat our football program like a fraternity.
I would like to shout out my guy Ryan down in Mississippi. He has a Golden Tee in his house because there's a restaurant that was closing down. He got a great deal on it. And let me tell you what, drinking some beers with the boys and playing Golden Tee at your boy's house, it's a lot better than doing it at the bar. Like, you can just play unlimited, unlock that thing. You can get on all the leaderboards, like, nationwide. It's insane.
I would charge a quarter.
Nobody's against Golden Tee, but not at the expense of the success of the Nebraska football program. I think that's kind of the difference. Yeah,
Can I get
keep that in the players'
tee?
lounge.
Yeah. Could I get a Golden Tee to hook up to my big screen in the basement?
Check Facebook Marketplace. You could probably, it might not be like local. You might have to go a ways for it. He got lucky with the local Golden Tee, but I'm sure you can find one somewhere.
I love doing this show every Saturday. We have no idea where this is going. This is what makes us the best.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, duck hunt is going to be a really big deal when Raiola comes in. That is his kind of thing. And Trev's fine with that because you're practicing like long-term, like vision, depth perception, triggering, right? Like, it's applicable to the sport. So that'll be good.
Someone on the stream, and then I know because Schmidt is so uncomfortable right now.
No, I'm not uncomfortable.
No, we started talking Golden Tee. We reeled him right back in.
Throughout
He was late because he had to drop a deuce earlier, so this could be true. Sorry, go on. No, I'm serious, Gary. We talked about it.
Oh, he wasn't doubting you. I just don't think you wanted to hear it.
No, we talked about it on the show. I'm just recapping. You weren't on the...
Gary, continue. What was going on in the stream chat?
So someone said the discussion is $4 million for Dylan Raiola. That's not true.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's paying all this stuff? Like, that's a whole nother thing.
Now, there's a significant NIL package because McCord's package was $700,000 plus a vehicle, and then there would be some outside business interest that could probably get you to $1 million.
I mean, there's talk now. Deion Sanders and crew are going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's right now, guys,
like,
it's out of control.
Yeah, like, dude, don't start getting involved.
But don't
with some
kid yourself. Saudi money entering college football probably should not surprise anybody.
No, there's plenty of it to go around. Like, I would rather Nebraska get involved with like the Colombian cartels. I just think that'd be a little more interesting.
Does somebody need to remind?
It's more interesting in general.
What happens with countries that are led by dictators if your sports team doesn't win? All right.
Yeah.
So you're saying week 2 in Lincoln is going to be pretty big for CU?
I don't know. I'm just saying I would not get in bed with Saudi money.
The Saudi sports washing, they understand that if they did off anybody that they were paying money to, that it would look really bad. The whole thing is they're trying to make themselves look better through sports. They're not going to off anybody. They want you to think, oh, look at them. They like sports. They're good people too.
We're trying to buy our way into not seeming so awful and monstrous.
Now, the cartel idea is interesting because I think we have a good in with Claus. If anybody can get us in with the cartel, it's Claus.
Right?
Well, this whole discussion, thank God Nebraska didn't go to a bowl game.
Can
you imagine all this? I mean, Nebraska preparing for a bowl game would get in the way of all this other stuff. Thankfully. Maybe wait till next year to go to a bowl game. We got bigger things to talk about.
Think about the parallels, though. If you watch Narcos, right, like the Colombian cartels started to have to take a back seat to the Mexican cartels, right? This is a chance for them to come back just like Nebraska, getting off the mat. I just think, why not? A little money flowing in from Medellin.
All right, guys, we got a bowl game in 30 minutes to watch.
I mean,
love it. Good work.
Who plays today? I don't even know.
Rich Rodriguez coaching Jacksonville State.
Oh, so we're gonna get a Logan Smothers sighting?
Did he get hurt?
I don't know.
Yeah, I
That's
saw
where
him
he
play one
is.
game. I haven't paid much attention.
Okay, Jacksonville State, and who are they playing today?
Louisiana.
Louisiana, formerly known as Louisiana Lafayette.
That'd be correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Mark, just to be, because we all have to go. You don't have anything to do today, do you?
Yeah, I do. We have
Like
plenty of-
the three of us will sign off, and it'll just be you for like the rest of the day until Raiola commits.
Are you
I'd
talking
watch.
about because I like to extend the show all the time? Well, you guys talk every day. I don't get to. That's why.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are like, okay, I'm done. I've talked for 48 hours this week. I'm like, man, I'm just getting warmed up. Let's go, guys. So that's all right. That's
Yeah.
all right. I'll
We also
like
get
We need the
Jerry
Mark
Kill.
Kraynak podcast.
Jerry Kill is coaching today.
I love Jerry.
Jerry Kill can coach football now.
that. Yeah. You take him.
Will
Mark had a date with Icy High. That was a one-time deal. It was a one-time deal, Stephen. Stephen in the
This broke
street.
my heart. Oh, no. Ralphie is from Shadron,
so they got him off a farm in Shadron?
apparently. Roger
I guess
Roger Moore is telling us that.
I should say a farm, a ranch in Shadron.
Shadron, beautiful.
Yes.
Sharpie,
right.
have
All
a
right,
good
that's-
weekend,
yeah.
brother.
Hey, you know
All
what? I don't know that we can top this past week, but we'll try next week.
All right.
Oh, sure we can. Let's do it. Are we
good, brother.
having a show next week? Yeah, we will, huh?
Yes.
We were planning.
Oh, we got to
on it.
recap recruiting and everything else.
We'll have a Saturday morning edition for sure.
And
What do y'all
we'll
think about a Christmas Day special? What do you think?
and we will drink
No.
Cornhead Lager. We'll wear ugly sweaters, and maybe we'll get Santa Claus to arrive.
Let's actually do that. Let's get some Cornhead Lager and some ugly sweaters. That would be great.
I had the ugly sweater party last Saturday. So last Friday. So I have the Mike Tyson sweater ready to go.
I'll wear a sweater next. I got a great Denver Broncos Christmas sweater. It's
No
fantastic.
Cosby sweaters, Kraynak.
Runs it. That's your second Cosby reference this week. Chris is depraved. I'll tell you what.
Oh, we could go another 30 minutes.
I do need some assurances though for next Saturday that drinking beer in the studio will not cause any problems with the higher up Schmitty. So that's a you problem. You're gonna have to
Get a
deal with that
koozie,
one.
bro. Red
No,
cup.
no, it's not. I won't be in the studio. So
Well, if we don't have any problems, you won't have any producers. So it is kind of your problem.
Nice.
Sharpie, be good.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Enjoy
man.
the rest of the weekend. And, of course, at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Yes,
Horns
horns
down.
down. Love
Let's
it.
do it.
See you, Sharpie. Appreciate it. See you.
For sure,
Kraynak,
Gary.
be good. We'll do this again. How's that sound?
I'm just gonna keep this open. Just keep the stream open. We'll just keep going.
No, I'm telling you, what the world needs is a Mark Kraynak podcast.
No.
Yeah.
Does it really?
I
Do
think
you
a
know
Mark
of any
Kraynak podcast
sponsors?
would go well.
Know of any sponsors? Medellin Cartel.
No.
Maybe.
Let's move on. That does not end well.
All right.
Kraynak, be good. Elijah, appreciate you. We'll talk to you next time on Hail Varsity Weekend Edition, powered by Cornhead Lager.
Godspeed, fellas.